people who get organ transplants don't necessarily think that they were going to be a person that would ever get an organ transplant.
I just wanted to be like a normal adolescent.
I've been diabetic since I was 7 years old. So as a child, I kind of had my own ranking of which long-term complication I would rather have and which ones I'd be most afraid of.
When people hear they need to face the possibility of a transplant, it comes as both a hope as well as a fear.
Telling a patient that they need a transplant is always a very emotional experience.
There's a lot of fear and concern about what might happen.
And I think part of our job is to educate them about the power of transplant to really transform their lives and bring them back to health.
Then you have this layer of, this transplant that's going to happen.
Welcome to Vita Redita. And Vita Redita, as most of you know who've been with us at Vita Reditas in the past, Vita means life, Redita means restored, and life restored is what we are all about tonight. It's what we're all about at the University of Michigan Transplant Center, and we're so glad that you took time to join us tonight. This is going to be a lot of fun. We have some great stories to share with you. I know that many of you have been with us at the live Vita Reditas, if you will, the in-person at Michigan Stadium, and I know so many of you, but for those of you who don't know me yet, I'm Bob Garapi, and I am the Director of Development and Communications at the University of Michigan Transplant Center.
And I am Jackie Rink. I'm the Assistant Director of Development for the Michigan Medicine Office of Development. And I do want to make a note that Bob and I are both fully vaccinated and taking precautions by wearing masks tonight. And thank you. Thank you to all of you for joining us. We're really grateful to have you here. For those that aren't able to join us, we are recording the event tonight and we'll share it afterwards. We'd love to hear from you if you're here with us tonight. Please feel free to share in the chat the ways that you're connected to us through the Transplant Center, through past Vita Reditas, through Camp Michitanki. We'd love to hear from you. Please also note that the chat is being recorded as well and will be shared with recordings of the event. So share as you feel comfortable.
We really couldn't do this correctly without acknowledging the sponsors that joined us tonight, and it's a big deal, and we're glad that you were able to do it. The Michigan Wolverines sponsor, the team we're calling it, is the CareDx, and we want to say thank you to CareDx for being our partner tonight. We also want to say thank you so much to Trinitas Advisors for being our red carpet welcome sponsor, and we certainly want to acknowledge our Vita Redita sponsors. See, I got
tongue
through
twister.
That, right? It's a tongue twister. The Vita Redita sponsors tonight, Kurt and Renee Darrow. And Kurt and Renee have been steadfast supporters and members of our planning committees for so many years, as well as RSW Financial Group. And really, we couldn't do any of this. We couldn't have the long history that we have without our friends at the Shoemaker Foundation. Thank you so much.
Thank you to all of them. As in years past, tonight we're excited to raise funds for our Camp Michitanki, Michigan's summer camp for transplant kids. And we're also pleased to announce tonight our brand new fund, our Transplant Center Innovation Fund, which will provide support for research and clinical innovations within the Transplant Center.
So let's think about that. Camp Michitanki and the Clinical Research Innovation Fund, two really different ends of the spectrum, but representing so much about what we do, how we care about the entire patient. And think about pre-transplant, the during transplant, and the post-transplant, the kids that get to go to Camp Michitanki, for example, and really the holistic care that we are so proud of at the Transplant Center, all the way through the new treatments and therapies. And just think about what our scientists, our physicians, our clinical care providers are going to be uncovering in the future.
It's really exciting. Our goal tonight is to raise $20,000 for patients at Michigan. You can give now by following the link that will be in the chat or by following the link that's listed below us on the screen. We hope that you'll join us tonight in celebrating these two incredible causes.
So we have a theme, right? We had a few meetings, we got ready, and our theme tonight, we're prepared. Our theme is past, present, and future of the Transplant Center. And tonight we're going to reflect on where we've been, especially where we've been over this tough COVID-19 year. But we're going to share some thoughts about where we are going to be going in the future. And we're excited to share some updates. One from Chris Sonnenday, the director of the Transplant Center, and also from John McGee, the head of transplant surgery at our Transplant Center. Tonight, you're also going to hear some stories that are beyond inspiring. Is that okay to say? From some of our patients, and we're also going to have the opportunity to virtually visit North Star Reach, the new home for Camp Michitanki.
We hope that you enjoy this evening with us. Your support is incredibly meaningful to all of our faculty, staff, and patients at the Transplant Center, so thank you.
All right, Jackie, as we know, everything about transplant is complicated. We start and end every conversation with transplant is different, right? From surgical procedures, research, the medicine involved, the advanced care, the lifelong relationships that we have with our patients. We're one of the first transplant centers in the country, and we are going to be here far and far into the future. We have long-lasting relationships with you, our supporters, as well as with our patients and families. And they don't begin and end with transplant surgery. The surgery is it's kind of, when people think transplant, they think about the surgeon and the surgery, but it's a huge team, hundreds and hundreds of people just at our transplant center. And there really is so much more to the story of transplant. We'd like to take just a minute and share a video with you.
Your relationship with the Transplant Center is a long-term one.
The education, the diabetes education I received, explained some of the long-term complications, and kidney disease was indeed one of the complications.
I was in the 5th grade, around 10 years old, that the specialist at U-M recommended that I get listed for transplantation.
Kidney disease was one of the complications I was most afraid of.
We had gone through the process of getting, at the time it was a pager, and the pager wasn't necessarily even registered, and so they called my parents' house. And I can remember at the time it was during the holiday season in December, so it was 2001, so it was kind of a shock.
But while I was pregnant, they told me that my kidneys were seeing some damage and that I may have to go on dialysis. Eventually, it wasn't sudden or it wasn't a shock to find out that my kidneys had failed.
Hearing that you need a transplant can be difficult for patients. Even if they have prepared for that reality, the loss of control that comes with learning that you're at the mercy of this system that distributes organs to people in need can be really scary.
I asked my mother, my husband I hadn't even told yet, and my brother to have lunch with me.
What I call the worst family meeting ever.
Wow. Stories like Megan's and Jackie's are why we're here tonight. And transplant is a journey. No matter where our patients are in their journeys, we hope that we will provide some more hope and that you'll help us to provide some more hope. And Jackie, I have to say, from the backstage group, they said that there's still hope for me, even though I said RSW Financial Group as our sponsor. And we know it's not, it's RWS Financial Group, and we wanted to make that correction.
Thank you, yes. And like Bob said, thanks to this incredible community of patients, family members, friends, our past Vita Reditas have raised over $1 million to benefit our patients and campers. That is incredible. What incredible support over the years. We just cannot say thank you enough for those that continue to give and support us each year.
And it's not us that's raised $1 million. It's you. It's you that has been part of the Vita Redita story since the beginning. We wish we could be together with you tonight. We wish we could be back at Jack Roth Stadium Club. I mean, the nice thing is, if you're at home, like, you don't have to. You can have your gourmet meal and your open bar at the house, and you're not driving anywhere, right? Yeah. So it's okay. But really, we do wish we were all together again tonight, and we will do it again as soon as we possibly can. It just isn't right now, but we still are counting on you to continue with your support, just as you have over the years. We're missing out on the bowling and golf this year as well, but we do have some events going on in the community, and check our website for updates on those events. And we are going to be opening up events just as soon as we can that are based here at the university, and we're grateful for those in the community that are doing things to benefit the Transplant Center as well. We hope you'll find inspiration tonight. We know you will. We were all together last in 2019 at Michigan Stadium, and our keynote speaker was Tommy Shoemaker. If you were there that night, there wasn't a dry eye, but there also wasn't a person that didn't want to run up and give Tommy a hug, and we couldn't do that because of the chemo that he was enduring at the moment. But you know what? Tommy's doing great, and we've got a little update, and we'd like to share that with you.
Hey everybody, so at the last Vita Redita, I shared my story about how difficult my transplant journey has been, but I'm happy to report that I'm here now doing well at Michigan State, and we all look forward to the experiences that we can share in person, hopefully again soon, but until then, enjoy this montage of some great memories.
I love those pictures. It's such a good reminder of how passionate this group is and what a special community to be a part of, and continuing to make a difference for our patients. So much of what we do, that extra mile that we go that makes us a world leader in research and patient care, is also thanks to the dedicated teams working within our transplant center every day, including our nurses, our therapists, social workers, and support staff. Our surgical teams are honored to perform more than 300 transplants every year with patients not only from the state of Michigan, but traveling nationally and internationally to seek our help. Each transplant is its own unique journey, and that's what we're here to celebrate.
You know what? If you'd like to share your story or some piece of your story or just something inspirational, drop it in the chat. And it'll be part of the story of tonight. This chat's being recorded just like our program is being recorded, and we'd love to hear from you if you're comfortable sharing with us.
And every story is incredible. I wish that we could feature them all, but there is one that we do want to share right now, and it starts with the trip to the beach.
The story that just popped in my mind is when we were kids, our parents took us to the Bahamas. And I was at that awkward, 11, 12 stage where, my arms are too long and my feet are too big and I have absolutely zero coordination and I'm just goofy anyway. And we went to the beach and I was going to go snorkeling. And for whatever reason, 50 yards up on the beach seemed like a good place to put my fins and my mask on. And if you've ever been snorkeling, the first thing that happens when you put the mask on is it fogs up and you can't see it. And I walked right through this guy's sandcastle. Guy is there trying to impress his girl or something, and he gets up and he starts yelling at me and kind of knocks me down. As I'm kind of struggling to get my mask off to see what's going on, Jackie comes over and literally this guy's up here, Jackie's down here, and she's giving it to him, and he's kind of, okay. And I think about that, and Jackie saved me from getting my butt kicked when I probably had it coming. That, I look back on, and that's one of a million stories like that.
Well, my kidney donor is my brother. He when we have the meeting, he's dear brother who leaves with his heart, and his head follows shortly after that. And he said right away, then I'll give you a kidney.
I kind of think of it this way. She saved my butt so many times, so many, in so many little ways. I had to do it in one big shot to get even, so.
So living donation is one of the neatest things about transplantation. Not that it just offers the benefit to the recipient, but you get to see what people think about and how they love each other. There's a lot of challenges in the world, but living donation really speaks to the human spirit, in my opinion. The person who undergoes a living donation, while we talk about it being safe, everything has risks. They're getting an operation which they don't need. They're going to go through some discomfort, and there's always the fear of the unknown. So living donors have a special place in my heart.
Heard people say that, the donation is selfless. There's a selfish aspect to that as well, in that I have my sister.
Wow.
I know.
I want to believe that I'd have Jeff's courage. We all want a world in which we're safe, our loved ones are safe, we're cared for. We know that there are people who would do anything possible. It's pretty good. And I want to say this, that I want to just a shout out to our video team who captured that story. I've known Jackie and Jeff for a really long time, and to capture their personalities is fantastic, because they are truly a wonderful family. We're blessed to have them in our transplant family, and I'm blessed to have them, count them as friends. I'd like to think that I'd be as strong and as thoughtful as Jeff.
I know, it's inspiring, absolutely, just incredible. Your gifts tonight will go to two incredibly necessary things: helping children with transplants cope, and funding the research that will make all of this, all the stories we're hearing tonight, and future transplant surgeries easier, safer, and better.
But why Michigan medicine? Why is this the place where people come looking for hope?
It has everything to do with the past, the present, and the future, our theme tonight.
We have one of the most advanced, arguably one of the best, finest transplant centers anywhere in the world, certainly in the Midwest, absolutely in the state of Michigan. We've been pushing the field forward from the beginning, from that first kidney transplant in 1964 that was done right here. Today, in so many ways, and with your help, we're becoming the transplant center of the future.
Now we'll hear from Drs. Sonenday and Dr. McGee about some of the ways that transplant medicine has continued to evolve and innovate, making clinical care better for our patients.
The Transplant Center at the University of Michigan is one of the oldest in the country. So the first transplant at the University of Michigan was done in the 1960s, a kidney transplant. That long history and legacy of transplantation not only means that There are literally thousands of lives that we've had the privilege of affecting, but also we've been involved since the beginning in the development of transplantation as a field, in the development of the medications used for transplant immunosuppression, in the development of the policies that help distribute organs fairly to recipients.
Transplants come a long way with respect to what it offers patients. Over the last 2 or 3 decades, we've been able to help many, many, many more people. A lot of that is by being able to use donors that we previously thought were not suitable. So about half the donors that we use now were donors that I was told when I was training were just not suitable donors. So that's one thing that's really different. And others that we've optimized the immunosuppression and maximized kind of the outcomes after transplantation with respect to how well that works. It's still far from perfect. We need to do more research to make it better, but it's really been amazing how much better outcomes have gotten over the last 2 or 3 decades.
Transplantation is a transformative event. That doesn't mean that it's easy. And many of our patients go through difficulties of being ill, finding an organ, getting through a transplant, recovery, and then regaining their life and health back. That can seem like a long, stumbling journey, and for some patients, it really does feel that way.
After my liver transplant in 2001, my kidneys started to fail, and there was discussion and talk around a kidney transplant. I remember just being very strong and having to kind of put on a brave face, and I was young, and I was just wanting to be a normal teenager, and I all of a sudden had all these additional things to kind of worry about.
Children living with a transplant, really regardless of how they came to need a transplant or how they've done since transplant, live in this world that is much different than many of their peers.
You know, you want to, at that age, you just want to be you know, with your friends, and you want to be, you know, like them and included, and you feel like, you know, you're the only one kind of going through that.
Many children who get a transplant and their families really don't know anyone else who's gone through this experience.
You don't want to have anything different about you that would maybe give a reason to be picked on or, you know, excluded. Yeah, I, at 16 years old, went through a kidney transplant. Okay, so, sorry guys. I don't usually cry, so I really don't. I talk about, like, this with people, and
Wow. So transplant is tough, but it's especially tough for kids.
Yeah, they can feel isolated. They hate that their lives are so different from the other kids. They have to take pills to keep their bodies from rejecting their new organs, and more medication to counter the side effects of those pills. Unlike other conditions, there's no concealing it. They become self-conscious and deal with overwhelming changes in how they view themselves, with visible scars that are lifelong reminders. Above all, they're constantly concerned about their life. What will the quality be? The implications are huge and intimidating.
That's true. So here we have a world-class transplant center, but one of the things that makes us special is how much and how we care for the entire patient and how we care for the whole person. And some of our staff members, acting as volunteers, created Camp Michitanki. Who knows what Michitanki means? Raise your hand. You do? Okay, good. Michigan Transplant Kids. And what a fantastic experiment. It has turned into and evolved into an annual week of camp with everything that a kid could want. It's arts and crafts, and it's fantastic food over a campfire. It's joining in all of those camp experiences. There's archery, and there's basketball, and there's swimming, and all of the stuff that you want to have as a kid, right? But it's also an opportunity to bond with somebody. We've heard kids say, and it sounds like it's scripted, I never thought there was somebody just like me that was going through this or had this kind of a scar. It just is a powerful place, and it's a powerful experience. And while camp will be virtual again this summer, just like it was last summer, it's going to be very meaningful. And we continue to support Camp Michitanki, and you, by giving a generous gift tonight, during this presentation, during this virtual Vita Redita, you are supporting those kids. You're giving them that opportunity. You know, Jackie, last summer I got to witness a couple of the Zoom calls that were camp, and I want to say that once in a while, even those of us that have been around this for a long time, we get a little emotional. And one of those experiences for me was the last day of camp. A young lady, I think she was maybe 13 years old, and she said, she was talking to her fellow campmates, her fellow campers, transplant recipients, over a Zoom call. She said, guys, this has been the best week of my life, and I can't wait to see you again next year. And I thought to myself, you know, it's not the place, it's the people, it's the experience, it's the bond. And you know what? We want you to see a little bit about what that bond is like for those kids. Let's take a look at some videos from over the years at Camp Michitanki together.
Camp Michitanki is really one of the most special things about Michigan Transplant. Children living with a transplant have responsibilities of medications, they have responsibilities of avoiding other illnesses, they have had surgical procedures that just make them feel different. And the magic of Camp Michitanki is, for many of these kids, it's the first time that they realize they weren't alone. And to see that there are other kids just like them.
Seeing kids at camp comparing scars is hilarious and so encouraging.
And to see there are other kids that grow up to live normal, productive lives and are happy, that is really as transformative as the transplant itself.
Here at North Star Reach, there are over a dozen cabins just like this. During Camp Michitanki, this cabin would be full of campers and staff, and there would be probably a few suitcases with socks and shirts overflowing. There would be bath towels and beach towels draped up here and there, and there would be a lot of noise and a lot of activity. And as much as that sounds like chaos, it's really almost one of the most magical experiences for kids at Camp Michitanki. This is where they begin to bond and have those friendships and those relationships. I've noticed that the first meal at camp is a lunch that's always kind of quiet, but each meal gets a little bit louder and a little bit louder. And by the end of the week, there is something, what sounds like chaos, but what it really is amazing bonds that have been created in places and spaces like this between events. We see the archery and we see the canoeing, we see the nature center and the arts and crafts and the cooking classes, and those things are all great illustrations of activities, But what's really special is when the individuals are able to come together. The boys in this cabin or the girls in that cabin. The Camp Michitanki crew calls it Camply, meaning camp and family, because the camp family is so strong.
It just makes you so happy inside, and it's just, your heart is so full of gratefulness. Yeah.
It's also a great thing for our staff and for myself. We get to see everything that's been accomplished.
Many of our staff actually work as counselors and other support staff at the camp, and the shared stories that come out of those experiences really are among the most inspirational. It reminds us of why we do what we do.
Wouldn't it be great if we were doing camp again this year?
We'll be there, but we'll be there next year, hopefully.
Hopefully. Our friends at North Star Reach are doing a fantastic job with keeping the program strong, even in the face of COVID. And it's not an easy task, and they're really knocking it out of the park, and we want to say thank you. One of the ways that we at the Transplant Center say thank you is by giving them our support, which is, it's not coming from our clinical budget, it's not coming from our budget from surgery, it's not coming from anything like that. It's coming from those donated dollars. And when you make a gift to the Transplant Center, one of the things that you're helping us to do is to support that Camp Michitanki experience for those wonderful kids. And I want to say thank you, and we're seeing some of those gifts coming in tonight, and that's pretty cool. We're going to have an update for you in a few minutes about that, but we want to say thank you. Thank you for being part of this experience. Thank you for being part of their experience. They actually opened up camp registration at North Star Reach about 3 days ago, and I think there's already about a dozen kids that are registered to come to camp, and it'll fill up. It will fill up because, you know what, what is it? The camp is months away, and they're already sort of flocking to register. So good for them, good for us, and good for you. Thank you for clicking on the link, for going to our website, for making that gift, and for helping us to do what we do.
Thank you. Always thank you. And from the kids that you just met in that last video to countless others just like them, and the adults that we see every year. We do hundreds of transplants each year, and every single one is a reminder of all that's still left that we need to do.
It's true. Mm-hmm. Today's medicine, today's transplants are as good as they've ever been. But as good as they are today, they're nowhere near what they will be. The future is bright, and we're dedicated to seeking those discoveries, for giving our dedicated scientists and these brilliant minds that flock here to Michigan the opportunities to dramatically shift the way we approach the transplant process and to offer better solutions for a better quality of life for our patients.
And our researchers are always innovating and working at this every day. And up next, we're going to hear from Dr. McGee and Dr. Sananday as they talk about the importance of research and where we're headed in the field of organ transplant.
So the act of transplantation is full of hope and potential. Working at an academic medical center like the University of Michigan means that extends to both the patient as well as to future patients. Through research and discovery, we're able to think about how can we make tomorrow different than today.
One of the most exciting things about transplantation is that it really is the ultimate team sport.
Over the decades, that collaboration has gotten more intense and more robust and richer.
And that is true in research and discovery as much as it is in clinical care.
Transplantation is collaborative both within our four walls or within the university as well as across the country. So because it's a relatively small field, we know all the other leaders and all the other people in transplantation across the United States. We call each other regularly with problems. We talk about new opportunities. We collaborate and research across centers.
It really requires a continuum of investigators and researchers everywhere from the basic, bench science, understanding what happens at a cellular level in transplanted organs, to researchers looking at huge population databases and trying to understand why certain populations have better access to transplantation than others. And I think one of the really exciting things about working at a place like Michigan is all of that is happening here. We have individuals at the bench understanding the way that their immune cells work, and we have investigators looking at the broad policy implications or epidemiology of transplantation. One of my jobs as Transplant Center Director is to bring all of those efforts under one roof and to create innovation funds and other sources of resources for all of our investigators such that we can synergize our efforts to really help understand what transplantation is going to be like for the next 50 years.
Transplantation has a lot of great things and has lots of areas where it can be improved. I think about several areas of limitation, and we have active research efforts in all of those. Transplant is really the best option for patients with end-stage organ disease, but the problem is we don't have enough donors.
Access to transplantation, thought of as a broad concept, is the most important challenge in our field today.
One of the challenges with transplantation is that while there's great hope and optimism, there's also the reality of dying. So while there's endless hope and optimism and results are very good, we do have to face the reality that we don't have enough organs to help the people that need it, so people die on the waiting list, and our treatments and ways of making things work after a transplant are still imperfect.
We are really at the point where we need to be turning over every possible stone looking for organs for transplants. And one of the limitations in transplantation currently has always been that the time from when the organ comes out of the deceased donor's body to the time we put it into the recipient is limited. Sometimes it's limited literally in just hours.
One of the most exciting areas is the idea of keeping the organ alive for a period of time and kind of both giving it an opportunity to get better as well as to see how well it works. Currently, the ability to do this in heart, lung, and liver is perhaps the most exciting. There are a lot of hearts that get temporarily unhappy after a major car accident or things like that, and the heart will recover if only we give it a chance. Similarly, the liver takes an injury, and sometimes livers just need a little bit of time to get a little bit better.
The process of the death of an individual donor, the process of brain death or the process of cardiac death is stressful. So the organs that come from that organ donor have gone through a stressful period that potentially has effects on their function once you place them into the recipient. An example of some of the work that's being done in that area, including at laboratories here at the University of Michigan, are using machine perfusion devices to resuscitate organs. So imagine putting the organ on a mini bypass machine during the time from when it comes out of the donor's body and goes into the recipient. And the early data is that actually not only helps us select the organs that are most likely to work well in the transplant candidate, but actually can improve their function and mitigate some of the harmful effects, the stress, if you will, that comes from going out of one body and into another. All of the downstream kind of domino effect of that organ not functioning optimally for a while is incurred upon the recipient, can lead to effects on other organ systems. The principle is that the period of time that the organ is being resuscitated on one of the machine preservation devices, it probably is doing several things. It's flushing out some of the inflammatory molecules that we know lead to organ dysfunction. It's also literally allowing the organ to regain normal cellular function, which it lost in the period of time when it was coming out of the organ donor. In a fully controlled environment with machine preservation, the organ is able to be resuscitated before putting it into the recipient allows us, we believe, to make the transplant event more successful, which then translates to a longer survival for that patient and that organ. I think the future of transplantation will include many of these machine preservation devices. That's a really exciting area in transplantation currently.
It's really just amazing to see. It's a new thing every day. It really is just a great thing to be involved in, because it's really about the infatigability of the human spirit.
We just heard from two of our top transplant doctors, really top transplant doctors in transplant medicine, and now we know a little bit more about how important your partnership is, your gifts, your philanthropy. We're going to have a link in the chat, and if you heard us talking about that backfired a little bit. There's a link on your screen.
Technical difficulty.
That's right. The link on your screen that starts with victors.us. Please go ahead, and those of you that have found it, we're grateful. We're getting a running total, and actually it's running, and that's great. There are a lot of gifts coming in, and we're grateful for that. Gifts to the Innovation Fund are going to ensure that researchers from all disciplines have the opportunity to seek funding for groundbreaking ideas in transplant. And I know that over the years, my wife and I have had lots of opportunities to give, and we have a lot of things that are priorities for us, things that are important for us to give to. And the Transplant Center is always on that list, as well as Camp Michitanki. And we're thoughtful, we're careful about our giving, but we're also deliberate, and we are grateful for the opportunity to support the Transplant Center.
And tonight we had set a goal of $20,000, and we are continuing to get updates from our team. They literally keep changing the whiteboard on me. Last update was we had over 27 donors and upwards of $13,600. So just absolutely incredible support. We are just so grateful to everyone who's supporting us here tonight and throughout the year. So thank you from the bottom of our heart here at the Transplant Center. This community just continues to be inspiring.
It's awesome. It's a great place to be. And we talked about the beginning. We talked about Vita Redita as life restored. And just imagine facing end-stage organ disease and thinking that a transplant might be the only option. I haven't felt that myself, but we know many of you have. And it's a scary place to be. If you have been in that situation, you know what it's like to have family members, perhaps people in your community, neighbors, people in your church asking, "How can I help?" And one of the ways that all of us can help is make sure. Go ahead, dig out that driver's license. Make sure that there's a heart. You have your driver's? I have mine. I don't
have mine, but check right now if you're at home.
Mine. Okay. Make sure it's got that heart that says that you're a registered donor. It's a really important step. It's not the only way, but it's a great way to make sure that your wishes are recorded in a way that your family will know. Or, you know what? Go ahead and start a conversation. Say, I was watching this great live stream with
really
Jackie and Bob. Very entertaining live stream, right? And they were talking about donation. And here's what I think. Because what we've learned is that if you say, here's what I want with donation, chances are very good that the person you're talking with is going to finish that conversation by telling you their wishes. And now during National Donation Awareness Month, April every year, there are lots of stories in the news. Again, great ways to start those conversations, and we encourage you to do that. We never have enough organs to provide enough transplants for all the people that need them. That shortage, I've been in transplant for, let's say, a while, and that shortage hasn't gone away. It's still there, and let's all make sure that we're doing our part.
And speaking of philanthropy for tonight, your giving can continue to go further as well, and we are here to help. So if you have questions, would like to learn about planned giving, annual gifts, recurring gifts, please reach out. We would love to chat with you and answer your questions.
You know, we miss, I'm going to fix my mask, there we go. You know, we miss Vita Redita at the stadium. We miss I wish I was there with you tonight at the Jack Roth Stadium Club. But I want to say thank you for being here with us. Thank you for joining us in the best way we could be together tonight. And we look forward, I really look forward to the next time.
Can't wait.
Right, that we can be together, wherever that might be.
We hope the stories and the innovations you've heard tonight have inspired you as much as this community inspires us. We want to extend a huge special thank you to Megan, to Jackie, to Jeff for taking time out of their busy schedules to sit down and share their stories with us.
We have a couple more thank yous. I want to say especially thank you to our friends at North Star Reach for inviting us out to camp to do some filming and giving us an opportunity and helping. They actually helped us build the fire. That was a real fire, and it was funny when Jeff,
all real here.
When Jeff walked in to do his interview, right? He said, "Oh, that's a real fire. I haven't been around a real fire in a long time." He just said, "Wait, oh, I know, because we were throwing wood on it." He said, "What are you doing, throwing wood in it?" You know, so we're so used to gas fireplaces, right? And at camp, no, it's a fireplace, and so thank you, North Star Reach. And for all of our friends there for inviting us and making us feel at home for our day out there a couple weeks ago.
And last but certainly not least, we want to thank our sponsors again for supporting this event, helping us to kick off our fundraising, and just getting us closer to our goal for the evening.
We couldn't do it without you. That doesn't change, regardless of how we meet, where we meet. And I look forward to reading through the notes in the chat. We don't have the chat in front of us here. I do look forward to reading through that. And I got a couple of, and that one, the one guy that sent a note saying, "Hi, Bob." Hi. And I just wanted to, that was a shout out.
Gotta say hi.
That was a shout out. So we're going to leave you with one last feel good moment. It's coming up right now. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you again so much, and go blue.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Transplantation for me is about the human experience. The tale of it is something that you can always find triumph over adversity, people rising to their best.
It has given me, it gives me some comfort that when it counted, I could step up. When it mattered, I could step up. And that gives me a source of pride.
But for him to give me a kidney was amazing. Not amazing. It was. I wasn't surprised that he wanted to do that. I'm very blessed that not only did he go through with that, but that my parents raised a young man who would care for me that way.
I need my sister. At the end of the day, I know she's got my back. She knows I've got her back.
Roller coaster on the run, we just begun. Grab my hand, it's half the fun, 'cause here it comes, oh here it comes, we know. Oh,
transplant